welcome to the channel. This week I want to touch on Eubank versus Benn, which is happening next weekend as I record this. You'll notice in the background, rather than just a boring fight poster, I've got a custom made poster that I make on Photoshop, hopefully to give you something a bit more interesting to watch. I currently don't have a webcam or a camera that I can record decent quality on, but I will be getting one shortly, so it will be my face as opposed to a fight poster or something like that, and I might throw in the odd screen recording. Anyway, let's get to the video. Eubank versus Benn. Eubank Jr. versus Benn, should I say. Very interesting fight. I want to touch on some key points for Chris Eubank Jr. to start off with. One of the biggest factors in this fight is Eubank's weight. The fight has been made at £157, which is £3 lower than what Eubank normally fights at. He has previously fought at £168, but he's come back down to £160, which is probably the right weight division for him. This fight, he's stripping down a few more pounds, which, to be honest, I can't see being a problem. More so for the fact that if you watch him weigh in when he fought Liam Williams, he weighed in at £160 wearing a pair of jeans, a pair of trainers, a watch. So he wasn't tight of the weight. He didn't look too drawn, you know. It looked like he could possibly make a few pounds more. The thing I think is the overriding factor here is the rehydration clause, which, according to Eddie Hearn, is in line with the IBF rehydration clause, albeit he's not committed to saying exactly what it is. The IBF rehydration clause is £10. So we're led to believe by 11 AM on the fight day, Chris Eubank Jr. cannot weigh more than £167. From 11 AM until the fight, I'm sure he'll load up on meals and stuff and try and get a bit more weight on. But, you know, one thing that will be evident is that the night before he's going to have to limit what he eats and stuff like that, because otherwise he's just going to blow the weight. And there is massive financial penalties in place apparently for every pound that he goes over the £167 rehydration limit. I don't think this weight is going to affect Eubank starting the fight. If it's going to have any effect on Eubank, it's going to be at the back end of the fight. Out of 23 of his KOs, 12 of them have come in the first 6 rounds. That's not including when he fought Korobov, which was a bizarre fight which ended in an injury, which, to be honest, he looked like he was losing up until the injury. But out of 23 of his fights, 12 have finished in the first 6 rounds. I do find that he tends to fade, as we see, and let his foot off the gas a bit later on in fights. Recent opposition, Eubank's got wins over a potentially faded De Gale, who went on to retire shortly after. He's got a wide points win over Marcus Morrison, but we've just seen Marcus Morrison get stopped in 4 rounds by Denzel Bentley, who's now the outright British champion, having defended the belt 3 times. Now, Liam Williams is an interesting fight, but again, Liam Williams is coming up from a smaller weight. He fought a couple of times at £160, but the fight before Eubank Jr., he had a fight where he's hurt multiple times against Andrade, and there's maybe question marks about his chin going into the Eubank fight. As we see in the Eubank fight, he was dropped, four times, and a few of those times were with a jab. Eubank has got a very good jab though. That's one thing I will touch on. Very stiff. And let's not forget, in this fight against Conor Benn, he has a significant size and reach advantage. So that jab might become a big factor in just peppering into Conor Benn's face all night as he's trying to come forward. Another key factor that I think will play a part in this fight is Eubank has got an exceptional uppercut. Now, you might see a situation where Conor Benn tends to come in, like in his previous fights. He comes in low, dips down, comes up with shots. That's got a recipe for dipping into a Eubank uppercut. I'll just leave that one out there. Conor Benn. The major factor here for Benn is the weight. The size difference. He's never fought above 148.5 pounds in his whole career. This is massive above any weight he's ever fought. I will say that he's massively improved from his earlier fights, but you have to understand the matchmaking that Matchroom have done in his career has been exceptional. He has not been in with a puncher since the Paynell fight. Watch that fight back. He was hurt multiple times in the first round. And it was actually such a good fight to watch. But he shouldn't be getting into that sort of fight with a guy of Cedric Paynell's calibre. Let's not act like he wasn't done a favour as well by the referee that night, because he should have lost that fight. Go back, watch it, score it, understand that, he was knocked down twice in the first round. That's a 10-7 round. I know he come back and got a couple of knockdowns later on in the fight, but still, it don't add up. Now, there may be a factor where Benn did overlook Paynell. He might have not seen that there was anything there to worry about. He might have never been down in sparring or been hurt before and thought that he could just walk through his punches. But since that point, Matchroom have kept him away from punches. The best win of his career, without doubt, I would say, is against Chris Algieri. Chris Algieri has got 9 KOs in 29 fights. He fought the likes of Chris Van Heerden, I think, last time out. He's got 12 KOs in 32 fights. And both these guys were not prime. They were past their prime. Now, for Mella, an exceptionally tough guy, gone the distance with the likes of Sean Porter, etc. But he's just not got a punch to keep Benn from outworking him and getting a decision. And I think that is one of his best performances there as well to date. He showed very good boxing in the Formella fight. I will say Benn's advantages lie in his explosiveness, his speed, and the fact he doesn't know how to lose a fight yet. I think because of the family history, he will dig deeper in this fight than he has done in any fight. I think he will be hurt. And I think he will come back from being hurt. And I think he will give it everything to try and win this fight. He doesn't know how to lose yet. Eubank has got an exceptional chin. And he's got a massive size advantage. They might weigh a similar weight, but they're two different size men. Just look at them standing next to each other. There's a significant difference in size there. I don't believe that Benn has ever been in the ring with a proper puncher. And I'm not saying that man is Chris Eubank Jr. You know, you could argue that he's not shown signs of that recently, especially whilst he's been training under Roy Jones Jr. But it doesn't take away the fact that he's a lot bigger and he can punch to a certain extent. Benn's going to be in there with a decent punching middleweight. Benn arguably should be a lightweight or a super lightweight. I think he was super lightweight actually to start off with, and albeit he's looked exceptional in his fights recently, I just think this is a step too far for him. My prediction for this fight, and I don't sit on the fence with predictions. I'll say what I say, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll live with it, and my video will stay up. I'm going for Eubank to win by stoppage between round 3 and 6. I fully respect Conor Benn for taking this fight and taking this challenge. I believe he can move back down and still be in the mix at welterweight and have some great fights down there. But I just feel that this is a step too far for him. He's lacking experience to be able to, he's not gone through those gut checks to be able to jump up this high and get into a fight of this magnitude with a decent level middleweight. The problem with this fight, in my eyes, the worst scenario that could happen is it just not be a competitive fight. And that might do Ben more damage than anything if that is the case. Because if this fight turns out to be not competitive, then I think that will have a massive detriment on Conor Benn going forward, and mentally it might have an effect on him. I do believe that Conor Benn will give a good account of himself, and I think he will come out legitimately thinking he's going to steamroll into Chris Eubank. I believe he will come out aggressive. He might even take centre of ring. But I can see him getting stopped by the mid-rounds of the fight. I'm massively rooting for Conor Benn. He's rightfully the underdog. If you look on Betfred, he's at 19-10. But I hope he pulls the upset off and goes in there and wins the fight, because that would actually make my night. I'm massively rooting for him. I'll be cheering Conor Benn on the night, but I just think this is a step too far for him, and this is my prediction for this fight. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the fight and you enjoyed this little video in the background playing of my fight poster. I'll put a link in the description to see if you can download it if you want a little background or whatever. Or you might just think it's trash. But anyway, enjoy the fight, guys.